The courtroom smelled of old wood and paper, and the weight of judgment hung so thick that Marcus Holden felt it pressing against his chest before the judge even entered. He sat alone at the narrow table, fingers trembling as they rested on a stack of worn documents he barely understood, his shoulders hunched like a man already bracing for a blow. Across the room, his ex-wife sat polished and confident beside her attorney, her posture sharp with quiet amusement, as if this moment had been rehearsed in her mind for months. Marcus wondered, as his eyes dropped to the scuffed floor, what it would feel like if the world decided you were already guilty simply because you stood there alone. What if this were you, fighting for your child with nothing but fear and hope? Would you still show up, knowing you might lose everything? Marcus had not always been this man. Once, he had been a steady presence, the kind of father who woke before sunrise to pack lunches and stayed up late sewing loose buttons onto school uniforms. After the divorce, life unraveled faster than he could mend it. Medical bills from his son's asthma, a job cut at the warehouse, and the cost of rent in a small Ohio town had drained every spare dollar. When the custody hearing arrived, he could not afford a lawyer, and pride kept him from begging. He told himself that truth mattered more than representation, that love should outweigh paperwork, but as he felt the quiet snickers ripple behind him, doubt crept in. The humiliation burned deeper because it wasn't just about money, it was about being seen as less, as a failure, as a father who didn't deserve a chance. His ex-wife, Rebecca Lawson, had changed since the early days of their marriage. Success had hardened her, and bitterness sharpened her smile. She had built a life with polished edges, a good salary, and the right connections, and today she wore those things like armor. To her, Marcus was a reminder of a past she wanted erased, and the sight of him fumbling through legal papers only confirmed her belief that she would win. The court staff noticed it, too, the way she leaned back confidently while Marcus rubbed his temples, fighting a headache brought on by sleepless nights. Somewhere in the back rows, a few strangers shifted uncomfortably, sensing the imbalance. It made them wonder, if roles were reversed, how quickly dignity could slip through their fingers. Marcus's mind drifted to his son, Joshua, waiting at school, unaware that his future was being debated in a room he would never see. He remembered the boys' laughter echoing through their small apartment, the way he clung to Marcus's hand on crowded sidewalks. Those memories steadied him, even as his voice faltered while presenting his case. He spoke of routines, of love, of scraped knees and bedtime prayers, not with eloquence but with raw sincerity. Yet sincerity, he feared, might not be enough against polished arguments and legal language that felt like a foreign tongue. Then, just as the judge prepared to proceed, the courtroom doors opened with a quiet firmness that turned every head. An elderly woman entered slowly, leaning on a cane, her silver hair pulled back neatly, her eyes clear and resolute. This was Eleanor Holden, Marcus's mother, a woman who had lived through loss, sacrifice, and the long patience of faith. She had raised Marcus alone after his father died, working 2 jobs and still finding time to sit at his bedside every night, whispering prayers for his future. Age had bent her frame but not her spirit. She had come not to argue loudly, but to stand where her son could not. Eleanor had once been a paralegal decades earlier, before life demanded she choose caregiving over career. She understood the law well enough to recognize injustice when she saw it. As she approached the bench with measured dignity, something shifted in the room. The confidence on Rebecca's face flickered, replaced by uncertainty, while the judge listened attentively. Eleanor spoke calmly, laying out facts Marcus had missed, clarifying documents, and explaining the context behind his financial struggles. There was no bitterness in her presence, only truth wrapped in grace. Watching her, Marcus felt something break inside him, a mixture of shame for doubting himself and gratitude so intense it hurt. The courtroom grew silent as Eleanor finished, her hands resting lightly on the cane that had supported her through arthritis and grief. She spoke of love not as an abstract concept but as daily action, of a father who sacrificed meals so his child could breathe easier, of nights spent praying over hospital beds. She did not ask for sympathy, she asked for fairness. In that moment, even Rebecca seemed smaller, her earlier confidence exposed as fragile. The judge's expression softened, and the decision that followed carried the weight of careful consideration rather than assumption. When the ruling favored Marcus, it did not feel like triumph but release. Tears blurred his vision as he realized he had been seen, truly seen, not as a man without a lawyer but as a father with unwavering devotion. Eleanor reached out, steadying him as he stood, her presence a reminder that strength often comes quietly, carried by those who love us most. The courtroom emptied, but the impact lingered, leaving behind a lesson about humility and the unseen battles people fight every day. Outside, the sun felt warmer, the air lighter. Marcus understood that life would not suddenly become easy. Bills would still come, sacrifices would still be required, but hope had returned, anchored by the knowledge that he was not alone. He thought about the moments he had almost given up, about how close he had come to believing he was unworthy. If you were standing where he had stood, would you remember that help can arrive from the most unexpected places, sometimes in the form of a mother's quiet courage? Before the story ends, take a moment and share in the comments what part of this journey moved you the most or reminded you of your own struggles. If this story truly touched your heart, please gently support it by liking, commenting, sharing with someone who needs hope, and subscribing for more stories that remind us of the power of love, faith, and second chances.